Mega trends are game changers. So this is going to change the whole face. It might take also a very long time, but in my opinion, it's going to change.
Hello and welcome back to the Bankers Masterclass series on Egypt's reform agenda in association with Arab African International Bank. I'm James King, the Bankers Africa and Middle East editor, and with me is Hassan Abdalla, Chief Executive of Arab African International Bank. In this final chapter, we will be discussing Egypt's sustainable finance market. Now, Hassan,
thank you, James.
There are lots of discussions taking place around the world regarding the future of sustainable finance, but from an Egyptian perspective, what does the sort of sustainable finance market look like in Egypt today?
Well, sustainable, in my opinion, Egypt is no exception again to the world in terms of sustainable finance, because it is varying within even the same country in the mentality of the regulator, the institutions. We at Arab African believe that it's more now of a buzzword. Like I read it 25 times a day and I hear it 50 times every day. And it's these buzzwords really sometimes make people think they do understand, or whereas it is just a shallow word. We at Arab Africa, not only me, and there's a big group there who really believe this is going to be a mega trend, not a buzzword. And mega trends are game changers. So this is going to change the whole face. It might take also a very long time, but in my opinion, it's going to change. It is no secret to anybody that it's still, despite all the CSR work and all the poor is not getting any richer, and they're not having a better quality of life in a lot of countries. Maybe there are exceptions. And therefore there has to be a combination between profit and the society, because without the society you will not be able to work and you will not be able to function.
But here, I mean, AAIB is a bank which is actually doing something and sort of actioning some of these ideas through the Mostadam initiative. So what is that, and what is sort of the implications for Egypt's sustainable finance market?
We are working on different fronts. Mostadam is triggered by Arab African International Bank. Again, not for Arab African, but as an industry movement. We've been able to build capacity to train, and in association with UNDP and Frankfurt School of Management, and sometimes. So we're not just looking local, and we're getting even regional regional bankers to come and join. So our ambition from Mostadam is to build capacity and understanding from the younger generation to these concepts, and have them believe in it and have them know what to do.
So your goal is to create a movement across the industry and to let that sort of flourish independently?
Ambitiously, yes. Practically, we need everybody's help, including yours and your institution. Okay. We have ideas, and we are involved in almost all the international initiatives, whether they are Global Compact, Equator Principles, G20, most of them. And we do our own initiatives, and we do have ideas that could, when adopted by several institutions and also regulators, help. We've learned the hard way in Arab Africa. We started the concept, and it's also a group of people who started the simple concept of charity. Then we understood that it has to be CSR. Then we understood it had to be sustainable CSR. Then we understood there has to be a combination about looking and focusing on both the economy, the environment, the governance, as well as the whole ecosystem of to have sustainability. Sustainability is not an easy thing, or sustainability is not easy. And I believe that we need to cooperate.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say then that the big challenge or the big difficulty that you face with this agenda, with the Mostadam initiative? Is it just raising awareness around what you're doing? Is this the big hurdle?
We need more awareness and more strong institutions to come along. And in my opinion, and I've said that several times, the way that we have been taught finance is to focus on return on equity. We have not been really taught about sustainable, and this is something that even we think should be done, that there has to be proper education. This being said, because I know that most of regardless of what we say, regardless of what we do, it will remain in the mind of the CEO that he wants to increase his return on equity. There are ways that we have thought of that could reflect your social and environmental risk that would affect your return on equity. Whether this in the financial industry, there are several ways where you can do incentives that do not cost anybody through accounting that would allow this to be part and integral system. And this, if this is not done, I'm not talking about Egypt alone. I've discussed this in different forums. If this is not done and not taken by regulators, it's not going to work in the medium term.
Okay, and finally, Hassan, you are a faculty member at the American University in Cairo. You teach finance to young students there. Do you think some of these ideas and concepts are sort of in the minds of younger generations who are entering finance? Do you see a difference between students today than, say, students from previous years? And what advice would you give to young students sort of entering the financial field?
This is something I pride of. It keeps me young. It keeps me happy. The students are really full of life. Of course, you cannot expect them, of course, just to focus. My course is non-traditional. Just to make them focus on learning and not the grade takes some effort. But whenever this is done, then we can really discuss and achieve stuff. I believe that if I'm going to give advice, is simply when you go into real life, you do have to really be determined. You have to take risks. My first lecture to them is our job, not only in finance, but in life, is not to cancel risk, it's to manage risk. And you have to make mistakes. You have to think before you take a decision. But when you think, you have to time. You cannot go into analysis paralysis. This is where most of the young students go, because they keep going into loops. You have to be able to be firm, take a decision.
Okay. Hassan, thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you.